If you come across masculine and feminine energy, well, today I'm going to talk about this in relation to my mental health and growth journey as a man. And if you stay until the end, I've got an extra point for you then as well as the guidance I'm going to give before then. Okay, so I've learned about this and I've also experienced it. And there's different levels of learning because a lot of us are what I've learned from one of my mentors, like intellectually, we know a lot of stuff, right? And intellectually knowing stuff is just maybe seeing it once or getting that cognitive understanding. You know what it means, right? There's deeper levels though. There's emotional, where you tie some kind of emotional to what you learn. And then there's physical, or your identity, when you really know something that you own it, right? It becomes part of you. And knowing something and not doing anything with it is the same as not knowing, to quote one of my favorite mentors, Peter Sage, right? And I think it's so true. And for me, like I'd heard quite a lot about masculine and feminine energy, yet in my last couple of years, I've really learned what it's meant by going through some hardships or challenges, I should say, and really actually studying and then applying it differently. One of my favorite books is a book called From the Core by John Wineland, which I highly recommend, and it's really good on this. David Data, also The Way of the Superior Man, is really good on this as well. There's lots of books, though, on masculine and feminine energy. And just to be really clear, like there's different genders and there's different personality types and everything like that. If you've got dominant masculine energy, it does not necessarily mean you identify as a man. If you've got dominant feminine energy, it does not necessarily mean you identify as a woman. You could be any gender. However, I think research does show that if you're a man, most men dominantly have a masculine energy, right? But not all, right? You could be a man, and again, I know there's multiple and different genders and we have different personality types. So what I'm going to talk about is actually masculine and feminine energy rather than necessarily genders today. Okay, so masculine energy is talking about like the structure. It's talking about a container. It's talking about like direction. This is my understanding of it. Feminine energy is the expansion, it's the energy, it's like these emotions that are going on inside of you, right? So you could be dominant in one or the other. What I've learned though is we need both. We need a healthy mix of both of these things, right? Because if you have more masculine, too much masculine, then like that expression, that emotion, it just gets built up over time, and it just comes like you come back crazy on yourself, like I did, right? I had all these emotions exploding, like anger, frustration, just coming out, like screaming at things and like breaking things and crazy, because I just used to be like, right, action, direction, right, we're going this way. And it's actually quite not a healthy form of masculinity, right? But also if you've got like, it's all about your feminine energy all the time, and it's all about like expansion, expressing emotions, which is brilliant emotion, but you got like no kind of structure. You could go completely in any kind of direction. And although you might be feeling like joy and expression, like when you get into maybe emotions you don't want to experience, it could go crazy all over the place, right? So the masculine side really creates that container, whilst the feminine energy is about expansion and the energy and the emotions, ultimately. Now, like I say, I used to be really intense, and it's still something I'm working on, admittedly. I'm not going to say I've like sussed it all out, but like as someone who's got like kind of a project management and sales, like career sort of, and had like business, I'm quite like, okay, right, this is the direction we do this, and this. And sometimes I need to actually feel into some of my emotions. And what I used to do is be really scared. And again, I'm still working on it. Used to be really scared to sit and feel what needs to be felt. And I wouldn't give myself that container. And I actually found that coming across Particularly as one incident in my life, like a negative relationship situation, whereby I really realized that because I couldn't control or manage or hold my own emotions, I pushed them away. I perhaps wasn't able to do that as much with a certain individual, right, that I knew. Was actually other people used to say I really held that space for them really well. Not everyone, but quite a lot of people. But when someone's got real intense emotions, they need to be really present. Then they need that real like safety and that fear. And I wasn't in that spot, and this is why I fell out with an individual. I won't go too much into that one. Anyway, so what I found is it's really important for my mental health to have that balance for myself and being able to use both of these. And when I can work with both of these energies, I find I have even better relationships, not just like because not in a sort of like a dating intimate relationship. Yeah, it's going to have a massive impact in that area. But generally with relationships, when I'm able to work through my masculine and feminine energy, I can create that balance within inside myself. Therefore, I can be a container and more safety for other people. And people have complimented me and said things since. But yeah, ultimately, so I can look after my own emotions. Now, I want to ask you this: if you're like someone who feels like, oh, I've got to do all the time, I'm doing direction, I'm moving forward, yet you don't honor your emotions, how does that feel? Or likewise, if you're so caught up in your emotions, you got no structure, how does that feel? And again, there's different interpretations, so I'm just showing mine. So, right, this is what I'm going to suggest on getting this healthy mix of both of these. The first one, know how to build structure in your life, right? And I used to be so like tight and no flexibility. It'd be like, I'm doing this between 9 and 9:30. I'm doing this between 9:30 and 10. I'm doing this between 10 and 10:45. 10:45 to 12 is going to be lit. And it's just like, that's too intense. And then I kind of like rebelled on myself, and I just like go crazy at the weekends, and I'd be like partying hard and stuff, which is fine, right? But to party now and then, but it was just like getting out of hand because I was just forcing myself to be too much structure, right? So know how to structure in your life. How are you going to map out your calendar, right? So I find it's really good to have like, I'm going to do that there. That's my like mission. So like my mental health, podcasting, my blogs, right? I'm going to focus on that here, right? But I've got a bit more flexibility there. Maybe after football, interact with these guys. Maybe I'll have a long conversation with my mum on the phone, or maybe I'll arrange to go and see my family, or maybe I'll go and arrange and see some friends. So allowing that structure in my life really helped me, right? The second one, know how to structure a container for you. And this can be made really simple. So this is about allowing yourself to express emotions. I would suggest at the beginning of your day, just sit with yourself if you're feeling good, if you're feeling bad, and just give yourself that 10, 15, 20 minutes to sit with yourself and be like, okay, it's okay to see what's coming up. How am I feeling? The third one, find that space to express yourself. So sometimes if you're feeling really angry, really upset, really frustrated, you just want to scream it all out, that's actually a really good thing to do. Not in the middle of a city centre and not in the middle of an office. It's probably not. Now, I'm sure you got common sense if you're listening to this. But like find that space elsewhere in the day to express that. If you've got like loved ones around you, maybe like, look, I'm doing a bit to express my emotions and work through. I don't want to take them out on you. And it's a really healthy way. I'm going to find some time for 10 minutes each day where I'm just going to express my emotions, and you may hear me screaming into a pillow. But that's actually a really healthy thing. I remember I had to explain it to my family a couple of times when I was doing it. They're like, "You all right?" I'm like, yes, I've had some frustrations and I am expressing this out of my body. And then the fourth one, links to that, have boundaries for other people too. So know like how you're going to be there for them, but also if you're upset, if you're not feeling so good, then you've got to be clear, or someone's upset you or not doing what you need. Particularly we're talking in like closer relationships, express that to them. I I reflect back on the amount of times where I should have expressed myself a lot more. And it was a case of like, well, I feel that's guilty or selfish, and I should never do that because I was dishonoring or abandoning myself by doing that. And one thing you do not want to do is abandon yourself. If you have in the past, like I certainly have many times, learn from it, right? But if you share something vulnerable with someone and you're like, and you share it with them and then they just like ignore it, they dismiss it, then and that upsets you, tell them. And tell them in advance. This is one thing I was talking to my coach about the other day, my somatic coach. We go deep into emotions. He's brilliant he's really good at holding space for me. And we were talking about this, and I was like, I was really upset with someone who was close to me because she asked me how I was feeling, and I had expressed it, and I felt like I was quite vulnerable and open, and then I just didn't get any reply, and I didn't need a complex long reply or anything like that. And no, they were a bit busy individual as well, but I felt really like abandoned because I'd been really vulnerable and open. And then I said to my coach, what I also said before, I said, all right, I'll share it with you, but don't worry, I don't need a reply or a long reply or anything like that. I'd actually said I don't need a reply, yet I was upset when I didn't get a reply. It is crazy what we do, right? Sometimes subconsciously. So be very clear on what you want, right? You don't have to be like too specific, right, I want you to say this and this, but maybe if you share something vulnerable with someone, you say to them, right, okay, I'm going to share something vulnerable with you. I would just like you, if it's in person, because a lot of people message to say, if it's in person, say, I'd just like you to sit here and listen. That's all I want, right? You don't necessarily have to agree. I just want you to hear me. Be very clear on your boundaries on when you're expressing yourself, because setting the boundaries is quite like a masculine energy, and then being able to express that is really allowing your feminine energy as well out as well. Okay, my extra point I just want to share, it's a very simple one. Get yourself a coach in this area of masculine and feminine energy. This is something I talk with my coach an awful lot. He's like a somatic coach, so we go deep into like the body, how I'm feeling, my nervous system regulating, all of that kind of thing, rather than just this kind of like positive mindset stuff that we've got in personal growth. Get yourself a coach who can really allow you to explore balancing your different energies inside yourself, because sometimes we can't see the label on the jar if we're inside the jar, right? So that would be my bonus point for you on this one as well. So I appreciate you for being here. You're improving other people in your life by working on yourself as a man. And remember, lead with your heart, not with fear.